In this video, I'm going to be talking about SQLite, which is a library for Python that will enable us to access and manipulate data in databases. It also allows us to create our own databases locally and query them, pull data back from them. The great thing about SQLite is that it's built into Python, so we don't have to mess around installing pip commands. We don't use pip commands to install it. It's not third party. It's built in. It's burnt into Python. The way that it works is we have our Python program, so our code. We import our SQLite module, and that will give us some methods that will allow us to, one, connect to a database, and two, start to manipulate data within tables in that database. If you're unsure about what a relational database is, or haven't sort of experienced SQL before, it's not the end of the world, but I would urge you to come and have a chat with me about relational databases. It's something we cover in year 9 and 10 in IST. In short, it's a way of storing data, and SQL is a way of requesting data from a particular table, or requesting data from a database, or adding data to a database. It's the language we use to do that. Most enterprise databases or business databases use this language of communication. So let's get started. I'm keen to get straight into the code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a library database, and it's going to contain a single table. It's going to be called books. I'm going to add some records to that table, and then I will get you set off on a task that will create your own database in a similar fashion. So first of all, I'm going to import SQLite 3. I am just going to print the version off just to make sure it's working. So yep, we're in business. And then I'm gonna do it in steps. I'm gonna show you in steps. So step 1 is connect to a database / create a database. Same command for both. What I mean by that is the following. I'm going to call my database library example. So I'm going to update this to library example. Now, if there wasn't a database called library example, it's going to create one. If there already was one, then it would access that. It would connect to that. Step 2 is create something called a cursor object. And now the cursor object basically allows us to use SQL commands inside of Python, which is cool because it's like two languages working together. And that's really the key, that cursor object, which you'll see now. So I'm going to go cursor equals dbcon, which is the database that we set up, dot cursor. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to create a table using our first SQL statement. This is what it's going to look like. So we're going to execute a statement. That statement is going to look like this. Now, this looks a bit strange to begin with, but you'll get it. So 3 apostrophes. This is known as a docstring. It enables us to do multiple lines, basically, without an error. So we can do something like this. And we can carry on typing. So create table, if not exists, we'll go, if something doesn't already exist, we're going to create a table. It's going to be called books, and this is what you're going to put inside of it. Let's look at our data dictionary. ID, title, author, price, year, integer, text, text as our data types. So we're going to go ID, which is an integer primary key. Next, we're going to do title, which is text, author, which is text, price, which is text, and year, which is text. The last thing I'm going to do is just go dot 3 apostrophes, and my syntax error will go. So bracket, 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 bracket. I've probably got one additional bracket I don't need. Okay, so that's going to create my table with no data inside. The next statement I'm going to do is insert some data. So what do I need to insert? Well, I'm not going to create a table. I'm going to insert into the table called books and the values as follows. So this is where I'm going to actually put the data in. So the first record is 1, Pro PowerShell is the title. The author is Brian Kafaki. The price is $35 and the year is 2015. Okay, so that's my first. Make sure I get that doc string in. That's my first record. Now, if I go to a new line, I can add the second record, but I need to make sure that this is 2 because it's a unique key. And I will do Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That is by Douglas Adams. And that is 12 and it's 1999. That's the year. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. Last thing I'm going to do, in fact, really, this is the second to last thing I'll do. I'm going to commit. So I'm going to commit these changes that I'm making to the database that I'm setting up. So it's going to be dbcon.commit. Okay. Now, if I was to run this at the moment, hopefully I wouldn't get an error, but I wouldn't see anything. It would do all this in the background and I wouldn't see anything. So I need a way of actually pulling data back. So the final step, the final step is final SQL statement, which is called a select. Let's keep this neat. And it's similar. We do cursor.execute. And this time around, we're going to do select asterisk. All data analysts love this line, select asterisk, which means select all. And we're going to select all records from the table that we created called books. And we're going to do fetch all afterwards. Okay. So basically what fetch all does is all of the data that it receives, it's going to put into a Python list for us. And we all know and love Python lists because we can do cool things like loop through the lists using a for statement. So I'm going to capture this statement in a variable called list books and then print it back. So with a bit of luck, when I execute my code now, let's clear this. We should basically just have a list with 2 of these books in. Let's give it a go. And lo and behold, we have got a Python list with 2 books in there. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys now, and I'd like you to see if, based off of what I've done, I've got a GitHub link to this code, so you can use this code if you'd like as a starting point. Create your own database called games, add 3 games, and use a select statement to retrieve all games in the database. This is only really the beginning, so there's lots of more things that we can do with this. So this is a good starting point. More to come. Good luck, and I'll see you